Your soulmate received a message today. It changed everything, and now they need you to know what happened. My beloved child, stop for a moment and listen to this message, because something shifted today that you may not have seen, but your heart may already be sensing. Your soulmate received a message today, and what they read changed something inside them that they had been trying to keep buried. It may have been a text, an email, a phone call, a letter, a conversation, or even information they discovered completely unexpectedly, but whatever form it took, it forced them to confront a truth they had been avoiding. And now they are sitting with emotions they never expected to feel. They may be wondering whether they should tell you everything. They may be replaying the message over and over again in their mind. They may be asking themselves why this happened today, why these words reached them at this particular moment, and why the first person they thought about after receiving it was you. My beloved child, don't scroll away just because you cannot see the connection yet. Sometimes one piece of information can rearrange an entire person's perspective. Sometimes a single sentence can unlock memories that someone has spent months or even years trying to suppress. And sometimes the message that changes everything is not the message itself, but what that message reveals about the truth someone has been running from. Your soulmate may have received something today that made them realize their situation is no longer as simple as they once believed. Something they thought was permanent may suddenly feel temporary. Something they thought they had accepted may suddenly feel impossible to accept. And somewhere in the middle of that realization, your name, your face, your voice, or your memory entered their thoughts. My beloved child, there is a reason this feels so intense. Your soulmate may have been living with two different realities at the same time. On the outside, they have been continuing with their normal responsibilities. They may have been working, talking to people, attending meetings, spending time with family, posting normally, laughing normally, and giving everyone the impression that life is moving forward exactly as expected. But internally, there has been a question they could not silence. What am I really doing with my life? Am I where I am supposed to be? Why does my heart keep returning to someone I tried to forget? They may not have told anyone about this internal conflict. They may not even have admitted it fully to themselves. But today, something happened that made avoidance much harder. Imagine receiving a message that suddenly changes the way you see your past, your present, and your future. That is the kind of emotional impact this moment may have created. They may have read the message once and felt nothing. Then they read it again. And suddenly, something inside them dropped. Their mind began connecting pieces that they had previously kept separate. They remembered conversations with you. They remembered moments when you tried to tell them something they were not ready to hear. They remembered the way you looked at them when they walked away. They remembered the last meaningful conversation you shared. And perhaps most painfully, they remembered the opportunity they allowed to pass because they were afraid. Listen carefully, my beloved child, because the next part is important. The message they received may not have been directly about you, but it may have triggered something connected to you. Sometimes people don't realize what they truly value until an outside event forces them to compare their current reality with what they once had. Maybe the message brought news about someone they know. Maybe someone unexpectedly contacted them after a long period of silence. Maybe they received information about a major life change. Maybe someone revealed something they had been keeping secret. Maybe an old situation suddenly resurfaced. Or perhaps they received an opportunity that requires them to make a decision about their future. Whatever the details may be, the emotional result is what matters. They can no longer look at their life exactly the same way. And when their mind began searching for the person who represents something genuine, something emotionally significant, something they never fully resolved, they thought of you. That's why this moment may feel connected to you even if you have not spoken today. There is another layer to this, my beloved child. Your soulmate may have been convincing themselves that they had moved on. They may have told themselves that enough time had passed. They may have tried to replace the memories with new experiences. They may have told friends, "I'm fine." They may have even believed it for a while. But today exposed the difference between distraction and healing. Distraction can keep someone busy. Healing requires honesty. And when that message arrived, the distractions may have suddenly stopped working. They could no longer escape the question that was waiting underneath everything: what do I really want? And perhaps the answer frightened them. Because the heart has a way of remembering what the mind tries to delete. They may have remembered how safe they felt talking to you. They may have remembered the moments when you understood them without judgment. They may have remembered your patience, your presence, your kindness, or the way you believed in them when they did not believe in themselves. And now they may be wondering whether they made a mistake by walking away. But my beloved child, don't misunderstand this message. This does not mean you should immediately contact them, chase them, or demand an explanation. It does not mean every message they receive is a divine sign that guarantees a specific outcome. What it means is that circumstances can cause people to reevaluate choices they once considered permanent. If this person truly has unfinished feelings, those feelings may be coming to the surface again. But their responsibility is to deal with those feelings honestly. Your responsibility is to remain grounded. Do not let anticipation steal your peace. Do not spend the entire day staring at your phone waiting for their name to appear. Do not create 1,000 explanations for one unanswered message. You have already spent enough time wondering what someone else is thinking. Now allow their actions to reveal what their words have not. And there is something your soulmate may be realizing tonight that could be very difficult for them to admit. They may have assumed you would always be there. They may have believed that even if they disappeared, you would remain emotionally available. They may have thought that if they ever wanted to return, the door would automatically still be open. But today, something made them realize that you are changing too. You are not the same person they left behind. You have grown. You have learned. You have experienced things. You have discovered parts of yourself that existed before them and continue to exist after them. And that realization can create a strange kind of fear. They may suddenly wonder, what if they don't want me anymore? What if they have finally moved on? What if I waited too long? Those questions may be haunting them more than they would ever admit. My beloved child, there may have been a moment today when they put their phone down, looked around the room, and realized how much they wanted to tell you. They may have typed something and deleted it. They may have opened your conversation and stared at your name. They may have written, "I need to tell you something," and then erased the words because fear took over. They may have wondered whether you would respond with love or anger. They may fear that too much time has passed. They may fear that you will ask questions they aren't prepared to answer. They may fear having to explain why they stayed silent for so long. But beneath all those fears is one powerful emotion: regret. Not necessarily regret over everything that happened, but regret over what they failed to say when they had the opportunity. And this is where today's message becomes even more significant. The information they received may have forced them to think about timing. They may be realizing that life does not always wait for people to become brave. Opportunities disappear. People change. Circumstances move. Doors close. Years pass. And suddenly, what once seemed like something they could deal with later becomes something they need to confront now. Maybe they thought there would always be another chance to speak with you. Maybe they thought they had unlimited time to figure themselves out. Today may have reminded them that time is not guaranteed. And when that realization hit them, your memory became impossible to ignore. You may also notice something unusual within yourself. Perhaps you suddenly feel calmer than you have felt in weeks. Perhaps you woke up with an unexplained feeling that something had shifted. Maybe you randomly remembered them today without intentionally thinking about them. Maybe you heard a song that reminded you of them. Maybe you saw something that brought back a specific memory. These experiences can happen naturally when someone remains emotionally important to us, so don't treat every coincidence as proof of a predetermined event. Instead, use the moment as an invitation to reflect. Ask yourself what this connection has taught you. Ask yourself what kind of love you want going forward. Ask yourself whether you are ready for honest communication instead of confusion. Because if this person does return, the old version of the relationship cannot simply be repeated. Something would need to change. Your soulmate may be realizing that too. They may understand that if they come back, they cannot come back with the same excuses. They cannot expect you to accept half-truths. They cannot disappear whenever emotions become uncomfortable. They cannot ask you to wait indefinitely while they remain undecided. If they truly want another opportunity, they will eventually have to demonstrate that desire through action. And perhaps today's message was the beginning of that realization. My beloved child, there is also a possibility that the message they received revealed something they did not know about you. Maybe someone mentioned your name. Maybe they heard an update about your life. Maybe they discovered that you have changed your direction, started something new, achieved something important, or simply become happier. And that information may have hit them harder than expected. They may have realized that while they were standing still emotionally, you were moving forward. They may have looked at your life from a distance and thought, they are becoming everything I knew they could become. And instead of feeling only happiness for you, they may have felt a painful mixture of pride, longing, regret, and fear. But remember this, you do not need to shrink your life to make someone comfortable enough to return. You do not need to stop growing so they can catch up. You do not need to make yourself smaller because someone else is struggling with the consequences of their choices. Keep moving forward. Keep building your future. Keep protecting your peace. If your paths are meant to cross again in a meaningful way, you will meet each other as two people who have grown, not as two people trying to recreate the past. Tonight, your soulmate may be facing a decision they never expected to face. They may be looking at the message again. They may be wondering whether to reach out. They may be thinking about what they would say if they finally had the courage to tell you the truth. Perhaps they want to say, "I never stopped caring." Perhaps they want to say, "I was afraid." Perhaps they want to say, "I didn't know how to handle what I felt." Perhaps the words are even simpler, "I miss you." But the most important part is not what they might say. The most important part is whether they are finally willing to act differently. And my beloved child, there is something else hidden inside this moment. The message they received today may have opened a door they thought was permanently closed. But before that door can truly open, they must confront one final truth, something about you that they misunderstood, something about their own choices that they refused to accept, and something about the future that they never imagined could still be possible. When they finally understand it, their next move may surprise you. So don't panic. Don't chase. Don't force the timing. Let today be what it is, a moment of realization. If someone is meant to return to your life, let them return with clarity. Let them return with honesty. Let them return with courage. And if they come, don't only listen to what they say. Watch what they do. Because the message they received today may have changed their perspective. But the decision they make next will reveal whether that change is temporary emotion or the beginning of something real. And my beloved child, the next part of this story is where everything becomes even more personal, because after reading that message, your soulmate did something they never expected to do. They went somewhere, opened something, or searched for something connected to you, and what they discovered there brought back a memory they thought they had buried forever. My beloved child, after that moment, something inside your soulmate became impossible to ignore. They tried to move on with their day as though nothing had happened, but the message they received kept returning to their mind. They could not simply dismiss it. They could not put it into a box and forget about it. Something about those words had opened a door inside them, and behind that door were memories they had spent a long time avoiding. They may have gone somewhere private just to think. They may have sat alone in their car before going inside. They may have stayed awake longer than usual, staring at the ceiling while their mind replayed everything. And then they did something they had not planned to do. They searched for something connected to you. Maybe it was an old conversation. Maybe it was a photograph. Maybe it was a message they had saved without admitting why. Maybe it was your social media profile. Maybe it was something small that you once gave them or something they kept because throwing it away felt impossible. Whatever it was, they went looking for a piece of the past, and when they found it, the emotions they had been controlling suddenly became much stronger. My beloved child, sometimes a person can convince themselves that they have forgotten you simply because they stopped talking about you. But silence does not erase memories. Distance does not automatically erase attachment. Time can soften certain feelings, but it can also reveal which feelings were never truly finished. And today, your soulmate may have discovered that their connection to you was not as gone as they wanted to believe. They may have looked at an old photograph and remembered exactly where they were when it was taken. They may have opened an old conversation and read words they had once ignored. They may have heard your voice in their memory so clearly that for a few seconds, it felt like you were standing right beside them. And suddenly they understood something painful: they had not forgotten you. They had only learned how to live while pretending they had. Listen carefully, my beloved child, because there is something your soulmate may have realized while revisiting that memory. They may have noticed that you were trying to tell them something back then that they were too distracted, too afraid, or too emotionally immature to understand. Maybe you were asking for honesty. Maybe you were asking them to choose. Maybe you were asking them to stop hiding behind circumstances and finally admit what they truly felt. At the time, they may have thought you were asking for too much. They may have believed there was plenty of time. They may have assumed that if the connection was real, it would somehow survive without effort. But now they are beginning to understand that love does not survive simply because two people feel something. Love needs courage. Love needs communication. Love needs consistency. Love needs two people who are willing to protect what they have instead of assuming it will always be there. And this realization may be hitting your soulmate harder than you know. They may be looking back and recognizing moments where they could have spoken, moments where they could have reached out, moments where they could have chosen differently. They may be remembering the exact day they decided to stay silent. They may remember the message they never answered properly. They may remember the conversation they avoided. They may remember your expression when you realized they were pulling away. And now, with everything that happened today, those memories are no longer distant. They are alive again. My beloved child, there is a reason regret can be so powerful. Regret does not only make someone remember what happened. It makes them imagine what could have happened if they had chosen differently. Your soulmate may be creating those alternate futures in their mind right now. They may be wondering what life would look like if they had trusted their heart. What if they had stayed? What if they had told you the truth? What if they had stopped listening to everyone else's opinions? What if they had taken that opportunity when it appeared? What if they had not allowed fear to make their decisions? Those questions can become very heavy when someone realizes that the past cannot be rewritten. And perhaps the hardest question of all is this: is it too late? That question may be sitting quietly in their mind tonight. They may want to know whether there is still a place for them in your life. They may wonder whether you would even listen if they finally explained everything. They may fear that you have healed enough to no longer need the answers they once refused to give you. And that fear may be one of the reasons they remain silent. Because sometimes people do not reach out because they do not care. Sometimes they stay silent because they care so much that they are terrified of discovering that they have already lost their chance. There is another sign that may appear around this situation, my beloved child. Your soulmate may suddenly become more reflective. People around them may notice that they seem distracted. Someone may ask, "Are you okay?" and they may respond, "Yeah, I'm fine." But inside, they are somewhere else entirely. They may be thinking about choices, timing, relationships, and the direction of their life. They may suddenly become less interested in superficial conversations. Things that used to entertain them may no longer feel satisfying. They may begin asking deeper questions about what makes them genuinely happy. This is not necessarily because they have suddenly figured everything out. In fact, it may be the opposite. They may finally be admitting that they do not have everything figured out. And that honesty is important. A person cannot change what they refuse to acknowledge. For a long time, your soulmate may have tried to maintain control by avoiding emotional conversations. But today may have shown them that avoiding the truth does not make the truth disappear. Eventually, something happens that forces the heart to speak louder. And perhaps what they are beginning to understand is that their feelings for you were never just about attraction. They may have initially believed it was chemistry, timing, excitement, or emotional intensity. But now they are realizing that there was something deeper in the way you made them feel. Maybe you gave them permission to be vulnerable. Maybe they could tell you things they never told anyone else. Maybe you saw parts of them they usually kept hidden. Maybe you challenged them to become better without trying to control them. Maybe you made them feel understood in a way they had never experienced before. And when someone encounters that kind of connection, they may try to run from it because vulnerability can be frightening. But running does not necessarily make the feeling disappear. Sometimes it makes the feeling stronger because the person is left wondering why they cannot recreate that emotional experience somewhere else. My beloved child, this is why your soulmate may have been struggling with comparisons. They may meet people, talk to people, or spend time around others and still notice something missing. They may not consciously compare everyone to you, but their heart remembers the difference. They may hear someone say something and think, they would have understood that. They may experience a beautiful moment and instinctively think about how you would have reacted. They may see something funny and imagine sending it to you. They may have a difficult day and wish they could talk to the one person who once knew how to calm them. These small moments accumulate. And eventually, the person realizes that missing someone is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is 1,000 tiny moments throughout the day where you wish one particular person were there. But I need you to protect your heart here, my beloved child. Do not turn every coincidence into confirmation. Do not assume that because you are thinking about them, they are definitely thinking about you at that exact second. Your emotions are real, but they deserve wisdom. This message is not asking you to abandon discernment. It is asking you to recognize that human beings can carry unresolved emotions for a long time, and sometimes circumstances bring those emotions back to the surface. If your soulmate is genuinely moving toward you, you will not need to manufacture evidence. Their actions will eventually become clearer. Their communication will become more honest. Their effort will become more consistent. You will not have to decode every silence. And perhaps this is exactly what makes the current situation so different. Your soulmate may finally understand that if they want another chance with you, they cannot simply return because they are lonely. They cannot come back because they had a bad day. They cannot come back because another relationship disappointed them. They cannot come back simply because they are afraid of losing access to you. If they return, they must come back because they are ready to be honest. They must be willing to address what happened. They must be willing to explain the silence. They must be willing to take responsibility for the pain they caused. They must understand that you are not an emotional backup plan. You are a person with a heart, boundaries, dreams, and a future of your own. And tonight, they may be asking themselves whether they still have the courage to approach you correctly. They may even rehearse conversations in their head. They imagine seeing you again. They imagine what your first reaction might be. They wonder whether you would smile, cry, remain silent, or simply walk away. They may imagine saying everything they never said. They may imagine telling you how much they missed you. They may imagine admitting that they were afraid. And then fear may interrupt the fantasy. They may tell themselves, "It's too late. They've moved on. They don't want to hear from me. I would only hurt them again." But deep inside, another voice may be asking, "What if I don't try?" And that second question can become stronger with every passing day. My beloved child, there may also be someone around your soulmate who has noticed the change. Perhaps a friend has noticed that they are distracted. Perhaps a family member has noticed that they seem emotionally distant. Perhaps someone has asked them whether something is wrong. Your soulmate may not tell the full truth, but they may reveal enough to show that something is happening. They might say, "I'm just thinking about some things." They might say, "I don't know what I want anymore." They might say, "I need some time." And the person listening may not realize that behind those words is a specific person they are thinking about, you. But remember, my beloved child, this is not a command for you to wait. Your life is not supposed to pause while someone else finds their courage. If they need time, give them time without giving away your entire future. Continue your work. Continue your dreams. Continue building yourself. Continue becoming emotionally stronger. Continue surrounding yourself with people who bring peace into your life. Continue praying if prayer is part of your life. Continue believing that your future is larger than one relationship. Because the healthiest form of love does not require you to abandon yourself. And something beautiful may be happening inside you as well. You may be reaching a place where you no longer need immediate answers. You may still love them, but you are not willing to lose yourself waiting. You may still care, but you are no longer chasing. You may still wonder about them, but you are learning to let uncertainty exist without allowing it to control your emotions. That growth matters. Because if your soulmate eventually returns, they need to meet the version of you that has grown, not the version of you who was desperately trying to convince them to stay. And my beloved child, there is something your soulmate may discover next that will make today's message even more powerful. They may come across a detail about your life that they were never expecting to see. It could be something you accomplished, a change in your appearance, a new direction, a new environment, or simply evidence that you have become more peaceful without them. And that discovery may force them to confront a painful truth. While they were trying to figure out what they wanted, you were learning how to live without needing their permission to be happy. That realization may create a turning point. Because suddenly, the question is no longer, "Do I still have feelings for this person?" The question becomes, "What am I willing to do about those feelings?" And that is where courage enters the story. Your soulmate may have spent a long time waiting for the perfect moment. But there is no perfect moment when the heart is involved. There is only the moment when someone decides that honesty is more important than fear. And tonight, they may be closer to that decision than they have ever been. So if you feel an unexpected sense of calm, don't rush to disturb it. If you suddenly remember them, don't panic. If their name crosses your mind, simply breathe. You don't need to chase a sign. You don't need to force a message. You don't need to prove anything. Let life reveal what is real. Because what happened today did not simply change how your soulmate sees the situation. It may have changed how they see themselves. They are beginning to understand that the person they were running from was never really you. They were running from their own fear. They were running from their own vulnerability. They were running from the possibility that loving you might require them to become a different person. And now they are beginning to realize that becoming that person may be exactly what their heart has been asking them to do all along. But my beloved child, there is one more thing they discovered after receiving that message, something they were not prepared to see, something that connected directly to the choice they made in the past. And when they understood what it meant, they didn't just think about you. They made a decision about what they are going to do next.